listening to Bob Harden, streaming live online at bobharden.com.
Thanks so much for tuning in. The show is brought to you in part by Florida Weekly, your complimentary copy available at hundreds of locations throughout the Paradise Coast, as well as the Greater Naples Chamber of Commerce. We have with us Dave Bego. Dave, I sometimes wonder, am I mispronouncing your name? Is it Bego or Bego?
Bego.
Bego. So sorry about that. For all this time, I've been mispronouncing your name. Dave, by the way, entrepreneur, runs a very successful business. His business has 5,000 employees, over 20 states. Well, he had a confrontation that lasted 4 years with the SEIU, Service Employees International Union, and the consequence of that is his book, The Devil at Our Doorstep. Dave, again, thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thanks for having me on today. I hope I'm okay today. I drove 4 hours back from Detroit last night and had to listen to IU, and I got about 4 hours sleep, so I hope I'm coherent.
Well, thanks for being there for us this morning. And again, I feel badly. Of course, Indiana, the favorite last night, got whooped, unfortunately. Any thoughts on the game?
Yeah, I couldn't see it. So, I played college basketball. I couldn't see it, but it sounds like they just could not handle the zone defense that that they faced, and they scored 51 points. What else can you say?
What else can you say, indeed?
Too bad.
Well, we're all fired up here in Southwest Florida because of the FGCU and seeing them, the 15th seed, going to the Final Six or the Sweet 16. So the big game is tonight. We'll see how that plays out. Dave,
I'm looking forward to that.
You're getting a lot of attention. You're on the Blaze, Andy Wilco's show. You're now, I guess, last night you were giving a talk as well.
Yeah, I was at the Union Conservatives, their group of United Auto Workers who were fed up with their monies being used for politics and that, they got the ball rolling on Right to Work. I was actually up and spoke with them last May, and they had a victory celebration because yesterday was the first day that Right to Work was actually in place in Michigan, and I have to tell you, being there and listening to these people talk, and the sincerity, they were so happy and pumped up over what happened. And I'm not just talking about, they had some politicians there, and they had some other people, business people there, and media people, but the grassroots people, these guys that work in a Ford plant, assembly plant, and United Auto Workers, that they're tired of the politicians, especially the Democrats, using their money on politics they don't agree in, where they're taking this country. And the other thing is their belief in God, and that we need Him in our country to keep us moving forward and survive. I mean, it was very, very heartwarming last night.
Well, what a terrific experience for you, but also a reinforcement for what you discovered as a result of your book. For our listeners that may not have heard our interviews before, David, maybe you just tell us a little bit about your experience with SEIU.
Well, SEIU, and this came out last night because there's actually a guy that had been a member of the SEIU, and he just reaffirmed what I spoke about last night. They're a very, very radical, pro-socialism, pro-communist union. And they don't care what they're going to do to, unionize people, force unionize people. They'll do anything. They'll say anything. And I think what your listeners have to take away from that is they're very, 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 very good friends with the president of this country. And that should scare everybody, because these people, they don't care what it takes. They feel like they're going to change this country radically. And, they tried to force unionize my people through a corporate campaign and neutrality agreement. And that's one of the things I warned the people about last night. I said, it's okay, you have right to work, We have right to work in Indiana. My dad lives down in Florida. I know a lot of people down in Florida. It's right to work. But you know something? The SEIU is trying to force unionize people there in the hospitals through corporate campaigns by using these neutrality agreements and basically subverting right to work. And so you need to celebrate today, but you need to watch what's coming, because they're not going to give up.
So just for our listeners' benefit, and when you cover this so well in your book, and by the way, The Devil at Our Doorstep, A great read. You can't make up stuff. It's as exciting as any novel I've ever read. And you can go to thedevilatourdoorstep.com, thedevilatourdoorstep.com to get a copy of Dave's book. And Dave, the methods that these folks use are absolutely, well, you can understand why some people would cave in against and just go ahead and submit themselves for fear that their clients and everybody who's involved in the entire process, their employees, are going to be badgered and assaulted.
Well, that's right, and that's a couple of other things I talked about in this crowd last night. You got to remember, Michigan is where labor started. That's where the union started. So these people have a rich history and understand it. And I told them some of the stories about our people, SEIU members following them home, beating on their doors and intimidating them, following them out of work, and trying to force them to join the union, and holding their car door shut and bribing them, and them using little kids. I show the flyer that I have of them using little kids in our neighborhood during Halloween to trick or treat, and then these little kids give out these flyers that says House of Horrors, where people working for EMS are abused all the time. I mean, it wakes people up. You begin to realize who these people really are and who they really care about. And it's not the normal American. It's not even the members of their union.
So our listeners can understand this neutrality agreement that you're asked to sign, and this could be happening at hospitals right here on the Paradise Coast or other employees where the SEIU is trying to gain a foothold by using a neutrality agreement. What is it? How does it work? And what is its effect?
Well, it's very simple. It's about a 3.5-page agreement, and what it does is it takes away the secret ballot election, so employees aren't allowed to vote to decide if they want to be represented by the union. And on top of that, if the employer signs it, he has to give a list of all of his employees or her employees and their home addresses, because all this does is it reverts the process to card check, where the union, all they have to do is get 50% of the employees plus one to sign union cards, and they're automatically a union company. Well, when you do card check and you give a list of the employees and their home addresses, the union thugs are going to be out the doors of these people's homes, intimidating them until they sign cards. And I'll guarantee you they'll get 50% plus one, because it's ugly.
And again, the whole idea, it might even not be an intimidating statement, but it might be, you'd be wise to sign the card. You'll have to understand that this is, that your peers are going to be doing this, and you don't want to be the one who's not signing, that kind of tactic, right?
Oh, absolutely. Or, we know where your relatives live, or, there's all type of subtle things they can say without any physical, and it's not physical violence, it's all psychological, and that's what people have to understand. And, people, and we've seen it many, many times. And then as I told people last night that were attending, that this goes on every day across the country, and you don't hear about it because the unions don't want you to hear about it. They don't want the government to understand it, except for the people that back them, like the president of this country.
So, you endured this process, but what you did is you fought back, and not using the tactics that they use, but you used tactics just to bring the light of day on their tactics and help the public understand what was really going on.
Well, that's right. We, as I sat and went through this, I knew that we could no longer sit and take the pounding we were taking. The misinformation, the intimidation, the coercion, all the diversions they were doing out there. Trying to paint me and my company as bad people, much like what's happening with the Republican Party by this president and his administration. And I spoke about that in Washington at the Republican Whip Committee here a couple weeks ago. And I told them, you guys have to do the same thing we did. You have to go on the offensive, and you have to expose what these people are saying. That, they're untruths, they're half-truths, they're not giving you the full information, and you got to put them on the defensive. And on top of that, you got to expose things that they have to defend, maybe some past affiliations or some things they've done that don't really fit with the law, and make them defend themselves. And that's what we did with the SEIU, and when we did, they started crawling back where they came from.
Well, and we're not seeing those tactics right now, and we should. And it's just a change of strategy, and I think it's a good one for Dave. Hey, I genuinely appreciate you taking time to be on the show, especially after just 4 hours of sleep. I hope you get a nap today.
Well, I'm sure I'll get it in sometime. I do want to tell you real quick, and I told people last night about my speech to the Republican Whip Committee, and then I told them the same thing. It's time for them to go on the offensive. The whole place stood up and cheered.
Yeah.
So that tells you the people get it too.
Absolutely, Dave. Happy Easter to you and your family. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks, Bob. It's always a pleasure.
All right. Well, that's a wrap here on today's show. I genuinely appreciate you joining us this morning. I hope you'll tune in Monday. Mark Schulman, the founder and publisher of HistoryCentral.com, will be joining us. Also, another edition of Cop Talk. We'll be talking about the head of agriculture in the Collier County Sheriff's Department, as well as Gene Landrum, Professor Emeritus Gene Landrum of Hodges University. I hope you make it a great Easter, a great day on the Paradise Coast or wherever you are. Namaste.
Thanks for listening to The Bob Harden Show on the Bob Harden Broadcasting Network. For more information or requests and for audio files of previous shows, www.bobharden.com.